It was standing room only today at the Crossville City Hall when the Crossville City Council met in a special called session. Danny Wyatt called the special session in hopes of ousting the Crossville City Manager. Why?
I've got 2 or 3 reasons that I would like to throw out there. I'm not going to sit here all day. This is not to bash David Rutherford. He's done good in a lot of areas, I feel. He's been here 2.5 years. Last budget, we were recommended strongly that we pass a 20% tax increase. I felt at that time that it wasn't necessary, and I voted against it. He convinced the majority of the council to do it. Our audit at year end, and I'm going to try to get into this in the next work session of March meeting. Our audit at the year end ended up several thousand over. I can see one headed down the pipe this year probably. We've already had some discussions on budget hearings, and they'll start in about a month. So I felt compelled to bring this to the council and let them make this decision. I think we need to pull the reins back a little bit and operate a little more conservative. I guess to put it together, there's no big smoking gun. I've lost a lot of confidence in Mr. Rutherford. All good things have to come to an end, and if this council does support me on this, I'll do my best. Thank you, Mayor.
Next up, Crossville Mayor Pro Tem Pamela Harris outlines why she wants the city manager gone.
Following are my primary reasons for supporting dismissal of Mr. Rutherford from the position of city manager. Number 1, presentation of our 2015-16 budget was not in a format conducive to streamlined review and passage of the budget. In its initial format, it provided minimal information. The council was led to believe that without a 20% tax increase, our 2015-16 budget would reflect a $1.1 million deficit. As of December 31st, 2015, the general fund had a surplus of $2.4 million. We now have over $12 million in the rainy day fund. The city taxpayers are the ones who are impacted by the budget. We have entrusted our city manager to provide us with accurate budget projections, and I believe that Mr. Rutherford has missed the mark. Number 2, I shared an email communication with Mr. Rutherford whereby he was very disrespectful, insulting, and insubordinate to me personally. My concerns led me to research Mr. Rutherford's previous employment. I discovered local newspaper articles from the communities where Mr. Rutherford was previously employed. These articles reported that Mr. Rutherford was either fired or asked to resign, and one of the common issues cited in these articles was poor interpersonal relationship skills with council members. I have copies of these articles. At this point, I am not convinced that the interpersonal relationship issues between members of our council and Mr. Rutherford can be salvaged. Number 4, although Mr. Rutherford has the latitude to set his own schedule, he leaves every single Friday at approximately 11 a.m. and returns to his permanent home, which after 2.5 years is still in McMinnville. I expressed my concern that this is not a good example to set for our department heads, as some of them at times work over 40 hours per week as well. However, my concerns were dismissed and not well taken by Mr. Rutherford, and he continues to take off at least a half day and sometimes a whole day every single Friday. Number 5, there have been instances when Mr. Rutherford's philosophy has not lined up with the majority of the council, and he has worked to promote his personal agenda over that of the majority of the council. Example, the majority of the council desired to continue performing codes inspections for the county. Mr. Rutherford disagreed with the majority and was less than helpful in facilitation of this program. The city manager's job is to make recommendations, however, not to interfere with the wishes of the majority of the council. These are not all of my concerns, but these are some of my primary concerns, and I stand firm that Mr. Rutherford should be dismissed from his position as city manager. Thank you.
Councilmember Jesse Curley was indifferent about his position on the city manager, but didn't think it was time to just dismiss him yet.
I've really had to think about this all week because, I've also been a little disappointed. But in a sense, I've had to reflect back as a council member, what have I done to bring it to the attention of David Rutherford and get the insight of the rest of the council where we've sat down and give him clear direction of what this council thinks that he needs to do and perform as a city manager. And we have not done that. So it's hard to sit here today to justify voting to terminate him when we have not given him clear direction.
Then came the time to hear from the public.
David Rutherford, what I've seen is he's a great leader, he's professional, he has a great vision, and he really cares about this community. So even though some of these things have been said, he cares about Crossville, and so do all of we.
We've had recent success with the expansion of Colleen, along with the Apex project, and those are not the result of one person or one entity. We're getting site visits from industrial prospects that we weren't 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. This is a team effort and a community effort, and I urge all of us to work together in order to keep this team together so that we don't risk taking steps backwards, that we keep going forward and further the progress because our community demands it.
Your behavior at the meetings has been terrible. You've been acting like little boys. So I can see why your manager might be a little cross with you sometimes. So I can see and hope that y'all work together, because what I can see out of your manager, he's a great man.
City Council member Jesse Curley pointed out to the audience that this was a well-behaved City Council meeting, mainly due to the absence of Pete Souza.
This meeting has definitely been a lot more civil, and there's definitely been a lot less name-calling, considering that we're minus a council member here today. That's a fact. I'm sorry. No. That's a fact.
If we have a problem with employees, we need to take care of the problems with those employees. But to call a meeting like this out of the blue, to make this public, is the wrong thing to do, not only for the reputation of a rather good city manager, and I understand some of the problems that some of you might have, but you also need to know that that's you and the city manager, because you're going to notice that the general public does see our city manager very different.
And I ask you please to reconsider, and as I said, work it out so that we you all can speak as one and support our community and our county, particularly our children and our future.
Yes.
Thank you.
And one of our council members, Wyatt, said there's a lot going on, and we've got to start somewhere to slow it down. Do we want to slow down the progress of Crossville and Cumberland County? What do we want to slow down? Does anybody know?
I can answer that, Bob.
Okay, please do that for this group of people.
Let's slow the spending down so we don't have to have property tax increase every.
But he is an employee, as people have said. You need to work with him. Y'all not work with him and give him direction. I work with employees all the time. So I encourage you to go back and work with him and maybe get a mediator if y'all can't figure out how to talk collectively to your employees.
After all the public comment and discussion by City Council members, it's time to vote on dismissing the city manager.
We have a motion on the floor. Preliminary resolution to suspend the city manager until permanent resolution to be enacted. We have a motion and we have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Wyatt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris?
No.
Councilman Curley?
No.
Mayor Mayberry?
No.
So City Manager David Rutherford gets to keep his job for now. From Crossville City Hall, I'm Tony Perry. Crossville News First.